Hello, it's Rashmir here. In this video, I'm going to talk about fear. In particular, because fear is so prevalent in our world, I'm going to give you two tips to explore and hopefully start to alleviate any fear that you might be feeling. So fear is a survival response, right? It's something that is hardwired into us, into the reptilian brain and also into our biology. So the fact that we feel fear isn't a bad thing. It is actually very useful. It's an indication that something's awry that might need addressing, or we might need to respond in a way that is about getting away from that fear, flight, or fighting, or freezing. So the challenge, of course, in our modern world is that given that we are privileged, most of us, to not have to worry excessively about our physical and emotional survival, we don't always know what's causing our fear and why fear is so prevalent in us. And as a result, it can be a little bit harder to deal with the fear because we can't get our hands around it, right? It's not tangible. We can't touch it as such. And so I'm going to give you two tips to deal with that kind of fear. Now, the first comes with, I suppose, a suggestion, a recommendation. If you haven't already, then I would encourage you to switch off the news, to take a break from social media, because I find that those kinds of things can be incredibly fear-mongering, and they can aggravate and stimulate fear in us when either there wasn't any fear or the fear was really mild. So give yourself that spaciousness to limit any external factors that might be exacerbating your fear. Now, when you've done that, take a look within, spend a few moments in quiet, in solitude, and see if you can discern within yourself where you are feeling fear in your body. Is there an aspect or a part of you that is particularly afraid? As you do this, you might find that some of the fear starts to dissipate, or it may start, for example, to separate, because quite often when fear is very prevalent in the world, we can take on fear from others, particularly those of us that are very sensitive energetically or emotionally. We can pick up others' fears, and if we aren't careful, we can take it on as our own, even though it isn't ours. So discerning whether the fear you are feeling is yours or others can be incredibly helpful, because then you can choose to let go of the fear that isn't yours. And that leaves you then with the fear that is yours. So when you've discerned what's yours and what isn't, then look at the fear that is yours. Again, ask the deeper questions. Who in me is afraid? Where am I feeling that fear? What does it remind me of? What is it triggering for me, right? So you start to get familiar with that fear. You start to explore it with a certain level of curiosity and detachment. And that's incredibly powerful, because those attitudes of curiosity and detachment will help you understand what information is present within that fear that might be useful for you. I think that's actually two tips. So I think I'm going to give you a bonus third tip as well. So the third thing that you can do is to try and name your fears, because quite often when fear is amorphous, it almost feels more scary and more difficult to deal with than when you can tangibly name it. So ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? What's the worst thing that could happen here? And keep asking those questions again and again. And if necessary, write out a whole long list of the fears, because getting them into black and white, putting them down on paper, naming them in this tangible way can be very powerful. In doing so, you may find that a lot of the fears drop away. And even those that don't drop away, you can then look at and say, okay, is this real? Is this perceived? Is this something I'm just kind of imagining and letting myself get caught up in? Or is it something that I can deal with? And if so, how can I deal with it, right? So you can get into very practical problem solving mode once you've named the fears and can start to explore and test and decide what to do with them. Right, I hope this video is helpful. Do leave me a comment and let me know. And if you do enjoy these kinds of tips or want more tools and strategies to deal with whether it's difficult emotions or other things in your life and your work, then I encourage you to sign up to my email list. And I will put a link below in the comments so that you can click there. And if you'd like more of these kinds of tips or more perspectives on how I see and think about the world and how it's evolving, then I look forward to connecting with you and emailing you in the coming weeks and months. Thanks very much.